Hey Peter.
Hi Peter.
Jackson and Sasha here. For our wilderness project, we chose to look at the Hauser Wilderness. We were looking at wilderness areas around us, trying to find something that was close by to SDSU, and we found the Hauser Wilderness was about an hour away from campus, so yeah.
So through some quick initial research that we did before visiting the actual wilderness area, we found that the Pacific Crest Trail actually cuts into some of the Hauser Wilderness, which was pretty interesting. Jackson and I have both been wanting to go backpacking for some time, so we thought this would be a cool location to kind of learn more about this and explore the area. That's really pretty.
It was really cool.
When we get to the wilderness, we're not going to have any steps like this, right?
Yeah, no, right?
They have paths.
There must be. Well, I'm confused why everyone's confused.
You're confused why everyone's confused?
Yeah,
About what?
like the trails, and
Oh.
I guess they're not like.
Well, because the wilderness is not like, it's a area, so you could probably access it at different
Right.
points. But my guess is there's only a trail or two that actually lead into it or go to it.
Yeah, but the PCT goes through it, right?
I don't know.
Pretty sure.
I think so.
Well, it has to. If or unless we go off on a different trail, like.
Right.
So before we did anything else, we researched a bit about the area. We found a short history and description outlining the area. Wilderness.com had, I think, the most information we found, and it was still limited. It was first designated a wilderness area in 1984 and has a total of 6,919 acres of land. It's fully a part of California and is managed by the Forest Service here. And it's a part of the bigger Cleveland National Forest.
We looked a little bit into kind of like some of the species and animals that are prevalent in the area. They have mule deer, mountain lions, lizards, different types of birds, and rattlesnakes, which we actually encountered when we were hiking. Almost walked right onto it.
Yeah. So unfortunately there's not many trails a part of Hauser. Found that the PCT runs through part of it, but it's only like 1 mile of the PCT that goes through it, cutting through the southeast corner of it. And then there's a 4-mile trail actually in the wilderness called the Hauser Creek Trail that runs along the southernmost part of the area.
It's like Jackson said, not much else we could find online about the wilderness area. It's very limited, but one of the themes that pops up a bunch was the risk of wildfires, which is why they don't allow any fires when you're camping. There was one major fire that happened, the biggest in the National Cleveland Forest actually. It took place during World War II and was most likely started after troops were practicing shooting in the open area and bullets struck some of the brush that then caught on fire. Some fires have been started in the area since, but nothing as big.
Yes, so then finally we, for our pre-research research, we tried to find a route into the wilderness, but the directions are very vague. We couldn't find anything like super direct to get in. So we thought that our interviewees would be most knowledgeable to get information about that on.
All right, so for the interview, we had the pleasure of speaking with Brandon Norris and Mary Rodriguez. Brandon was a park ranger, and then Maria Rodriguez did management planning.
Management specialists.
Management specialists.
Yeah.
They are both stationed as part of the Cleveland National Forest, and they were able to provide us with more detailed information on the wilderness regarding history, uses, some of the management policies.
Yeah, so starting off with land controversies, there hasn't been many. 1984, 1984 it was started, so it hasn't been around too long. But Brandon Norris mentioned they sometimes experience trespassing from cattle, and there have been reports of using the wilderness to smuggle in drugs because it's very close to the Mexican-U.S. border. He said that they have usually mountain bikes or not mountain bikes, but speed bikes, e-bikes of sorts that usually pass by. They said they have a do not approach policy, so even if it just looks like it's a kid riding a bike, they say don't even approach it, don't risk it, just to go off to the side of the trail and hide in the bushes is what they said.
All right, so then actually getting into the management plan, Rodriguez was able to give us some insight on how they manage the area. It mostly provides guidance on resource management, which is mostly based off of the actual Wilderness Act, so nothing's too uniform to the wilderness itself. However, Rodriguez mentioned that they did implement a goal system for performance, so a wilderness standard performance, and it sets goals for specific projects for the wilderness. There are also just basic things in the management plan, land use zones designated as suitable or unsuitable for several different things. For example, hunting and foraging is suitable in designated areas, and also restricted or regulated by the state. And then hiking is the most common form of recreation in the area. There are no motorized vehicles allowed of any sort in the wilderness, and also no bicycles, which was interesting. And then part of the management plan includes just tracking resources as well to ensure the sustainability of the area. And then just one quote we found kind of interesting from the management plan itself was, management intent is to administer this zone for the use and enjoyment of people while preserving its wilderness character and natural conditions. So kind of just ensuring sustainability for the area itself, but also for the use of humans.
Yes, so how is Hauser Wilderness unique from other areas? So definitely due to its proximity to the Mexican border, that makes it unique. Like we said, it's the southernmost wilderness area in California, which we thought was pretty cool. And it comes as part of the PCT, like we said, which not all wilderness areas are able to say that, which is pretty cool. The area has barriers before entering the wilderness, which block motor vehicle access. In terms of wildlife and landscape, Hauser has much to offer with its Chaparral Canyon walls. They're very beautiful. We'll insert it soon, but there's a beautiful view of the canyon where there's a lake in the distance. We were pretty amazed by that. And it has some native species such as the Chaparral yucca, which we'll also show.
Very pretty flowers. What are they called? What they make leis out of?
I don't know. What's your best guess?
Lotus? It's
Yeah,
not
maybe.
lotus. I don't know what they're called.
Wildlife is fruitful with lizards, rattlesnakes, and some of the other animals we mentioned.
Another one of my reels this morning was a monkey and a cobra snake.
What?
And oh, I wish I saved it. It was literally it was like the caption was like how I'm trying to be like as chill as this when my enemies approach me. And the monkey was like picking up the cobra snake was hissing at him, like full on, like scary, like about to stick its fangs in it. And the monkey would just pick it up and put it around its neck like a scarf and just like keep playing with it. I was like, oh my god, he did not give a fuck. He
Fearless.
was just like chilling.
That's funny.
Oh, I wish I saved it.
So, in terms of recreation possibilities in the wilderness area, there are several different things you can do. Brandon told us there's dispersed camping that's allowed. And if you wanted to partake in that activity, you do need to obtain a permit beforehand, and the permit allows for a maximum of 14 days in the wilderness. On top of hiking, there are trails for running as well, and horseback riding is allowed in the area. Fishing was something that we asked Brandon about, and he kind of laughed because I guess there's not too many fish in the lake.
The creeks and stuff.
Yeah. So we probably wouldn't have much luck with that, but you never know. We could always try it. And then again, biking is not allowed. And then, like we mentioned, it's part of the PCT is in the wilderness, so that's obviously like I think the majority of people recreating in the area are PCT hikers.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of, visitors are managed through the PCT permitting systems, which allows up to 50 people per group. There's also a local permit cap depending on the season and popularity. Rangers collect data through hiker interviews and land surveys. Dispersed camping permits are required for any camping. And yeah, I think we said this already, right? Mm-hmm. Camping, no more than 14 days of camping, and no campfires due to the fire risks that we were saying.
Okay, in terms of some demographics, Brandon and Mary told us that tracking the recreators at the wilderness area is pretty hard to determine, as they don't regularly check. They don't just have someone on site, checking off who's going in and out of the site. And there are also different access points, so that makes it tricky. But they did give us some figures for this area that was given to them through the PCT. That's kind of who does all the tracking for them. And it's pretty much a 40-60 split between female and male. Female being...
Female 40.
Female 40, male 60.
Yeah.
So the information that's given to us through the PCT, or given to them, is gathered to help plan future projects and just guidance in making decisions.
So yeah, like we said, PCT hikers are most likely you're going to see on the trails. We only saw people backpacking when we were there, which was pretty cool though.
It's really cool.
The Forest Service act as managers for individual areas like along the PCT. However, there's a PCTA, which is the Pacific Crest Trail Association, and it acts as a manager for the entirety of the trail. And that association offers 50 permits a day that you can purchase and get used to the entire trail, and you sign up to do the whole thing. There's no designated time you have to do it in, but yeah, you have to get a permit to be on it. Yeah, and then if you wanted to just do a certain section, you have to purchase it through the smaller area that controls that. So Hauser Wilderness, or yeah, whatever else along the way.
Hey, how's it going? lightweight stuff.
Yeah.
It's gonna start going back up real soon.
Real soon. Ooh, look at all these anthills. Well,
Ants are scary.
ants are scary.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Got that on video.
So when we asked Brandon and Mary on just like policies and safety considerations, there weren't too many. There's the leave no trace policy, which is kind of standard for all national parks. No fires for sure, as we mentioned, the wildfires that took place during World War II. Brandon did mention that they don't usually get to talk to anyone going into the wilderness area, just because, like I said, they're not really tracking them. But when Jackson and I did go, we did, from the entrance that we started at, we noticed that there was no signage informing hikers on any of the policies regarding wilderness. So there are some safety considerations that Brandon informed us of, like the rattlesnakes, mountain lions, poison oak, and the occasional smuggler or two. So he did tell us that there are crest rangers that educate people on smugglers, and they also have people stationed at the border. I'm not sure how much they do there, but
Yeah, especially since they're saying it's an issue sometimes that people smuggle, but I don't know. In terms of interpretive centers nearby, there wasn't anything specific to Hauser where we went. We drove into Lake Morena, and there was a campground there with a ranger and stuff, so we got some information there, but even that ranger didn't know all that much about the Hauser Wilderness. There's also a Mount Laguna Center. We didn't get the chance to go. We didn't have the time to do that, but if I don't feel like they would have much information on it based on what we've seen and talked to the people about, but not too sure.
So, how did we find the wilderness area? I'm not gonna lie, when we asked Brandon, he gave us all sorts of directions that we did note down, but very confusing. We were gonna have to have a 4x4, and it was confusing. But the second option, if we were fit enough to do so, was to hike in by using part of the PCT, and that would get you in the wilderness area. So, of course, we didn't really understand those directions either. So once we drove into the Lake Marina campground and went to the center to ask, and the ranger who helped us out actually told us to talk to, to see if there were any PCT hikers that were just stopped for the day because they hiked through part of the wilderness. So we actually drove to the part of the camp where the PCT hikers stay, and we talked to 3 of them, and they helped us out with guidance to the trailhead. So we parked in like a free parking space. Well, we think it was parked. We didn't get towed, so that's good.
That's good.
And you basically hike in about 5 miles of hiking until you reach the edge of the wilderness. So we barely made it to the wilderness, but we did it. So it was 5 miles there and 5 miles back. But we really, like we said, are interested in backpacking, so we're hoping to do this again where we actually go deeper into the wilderness and spend a night or 2.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yes.
The question about bias, we didn't see or feel any bias of any sorts when conducting research or looking at interviews or any of our experience while we were there. Yeah.
So what did we think? I personally, great experience. It was really cool to see this area of wilderness within San Diego that I never knew existed. I mean, complete wilderness.
Just
like
an
it
hour
was,
away too.
Yeah, it was really awesome to just be able to hike, for an hour or two and get away from everything. I mean, it looked like out of a movie. I mean, it was really beautiful.
Like I was saying earlier about like the canyon view with the lake. It's like that's like the in regards to like a movie, it's like, oh, that's like the destination. You got to get there.
Right.
I don't know. Just very beautiful.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about how our definitions of wilderness are similar in the sense that pretty much as soon as we got on that trailhead, even though that wasn't designated wilderness area yet, we felt like we were already in wilderness.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting. It was also super cool to kind of stop and talk with some of the PCT hikers who we encountered along the way, and this was like the first leg for them, for some of them, so it was just starting, which is really cool. And just to think they have thousands of miles to go. And
the one guy we talked to for the most, we didn't catch his name, but
we named him Bob. We're gonna go with Bob.
Yeah, it seemed like a Bob. He had done 17 miles that day so far. It was like his first day. He was like, if it permits me, I'm going to do it all. Like, if health permitting or something like that, he said.
We were feeling fairly optimistic that we'd be able to do it. And then on the way back at about mile 6, we were like, this with the backpack on top, 20 miles a day, we kind of calculated would be real hard.
Yeah,
so
we're going to have to train.
Yeah. The photo we saw might have.
Oh, maybe, right? Yeah,
We're
totally.
like, this is not. It's beautiful.
Yeah, like imagine doing this.
Oh,
We're
Jackson,
obviously
I wish
not
we
going
were
to make it.
backpacking now.
I was going to say, like, seeing
Spend the
that.
night down in there, ravine, valley. Oh, that's beautiful. Well, we know where it is now.
We could come back out for our first one,
Oh my God. I totally would. This is amazing. Wait, where are you coming from down there? A lot of solo.
Yeah, true. Yeah, where's that going to lead? Maybe it comes down left. Yeah, I think so.
Low? You think it was when we saw it first?
I don't think so. Unless we were just a lot higher up.
I think we were.
It still seemed like it was touching the ground almost. Military?
Sound travel's weird.
Yeah.
I thought that was. Definitely have to train for this.
I don't remember going this long downhill.
So for part 2, we decided to go with the question, how might the conflict you investigated be resolved in order to live up to the legal standard of the Wilderness Act? So we decided to go with Paradise Valley. It resonated more with us. We were excited to do the debate. We wish that happened, but regardless, Paradise Valley houses important resources, and the area holds different cultural values for stakeholders. Specifically the Gramish tribe, through the land and the trout that live in the nearby river. Visitors are fond of recreation opportunities offered in the area, such as hiking, climbing, whitewater rafting, and ATV racing. There's a rich biodiversity that lives within the land that's vital to preserve, we think. There's also the importance of the cattle farming, so we have to work around that as well. And there were several solutions proposed based on the different stakeholders and their interests.
So based off of those solutions, we chose pristine wilderness because this most supports everything within the Wilderness Act itself. So with pristine wilderness means that all timber, mining, oil productions would have to stop. There's no private party involvement. There's also restricted recreational use, so no motorized vehicles such as the ATV, which was pretty popular. Also, there can be no new development of trails or roads. The land designated as wilderness will be managed according to Wilderness Act guidelines. There will be permitted camping, hiking, backpacking, fishing when allowed, so recreationists are still able to use the land.
Yeah, and then we would co-manage the land with the tribe, the Gramish tribe, because they were there before the area was designated as a wilderness area, and they're still going to be allowed to use the area for cultural practices as well as fishing for trout, and granting access to spiritual sites along the Central Range is important to them. So because they were there beforehand, we have to allow them to stay there and continue their practices.
And then in terms of restoring the environment to kind of better condition, we would do environmental restoration and protection, as this is an important part of the Wilderness Act. The Rainbow River is suffering from pollution, climate change, from overgrazing, which is another part that needs to be addressed. So the grazing rights would be grandfathered in because this was kind of behavior that took place before the wilderness was designated. However, since the grazing kind of leads to pollution, it would have to become managed in a way that is more sustainable and conducive to the environment rather than harmful. If that can't be managed, we'd have to buy out the cattle land or do some land swaps to assist the cattle rangers in taking their land for wilderness.
Looking for blood.
Thanks for tuning in, Peter, and thanks for a great class.
It was a wonderful experience. I'm super excited to get back out in the wilderness.
Maybe see you there.
Thanks, Peter. The end.